In our world today, data is, well, it's everything, right? It's what drives profits, it's what fuels incredible discoveries, and it's literally shaping our future. But here's the thing, it also brings up this massive conflict, this constant battle between locking information down and setting it free for everyone. So which way do we go? And that brings us to this really simple, but actually incredibly complex question. Is all this information meant to be a private asset, something you protect to make a profit, or is it a public good, something we should all share to make progress together? Honestly, the answer isn't clear at all, and believe me, it affects everything, from the phone you're holding right now to the very future of science. Okay, so let's break down these two opposing forces because they're really at the heart of this. On one hand, you've got private profit. I mean, companies are spending millions, sometimes billions, on R&D, and they absolutely need secrecy to get a return on that huge investment. But then, on the other hand, you have public progress. Sharing that exact same data could turbocharge scientific breakthroughs that help, well, all of us. All right, let's dive into section 1. We're going to frame this core problem, what the research we're looking at calls data's fundamental trade-off. And it really is a conflict that pits these powerful business incentives against the good of society. Man, this quote really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's a terrible trade-off. And that word terrible is key because both sides have a really strong, valid point. If you protect private innovation, you give companies a reason to invest money. But if you share that innovation, you could speed up discoveries that help literally everyone. Finding that perfect balance, that's probably one of the biggest challenges we're facing in this information age. So that takes us from the what of the problem to the how. So how is all this data actually controlled? How is it managed? Well, it turns out it all comes down to a very specific set of tools. Okay, so organizations basically use data in 4 key ways. First, they use descriptive analytics, which is just looking back and asking what happened. Then it gets more interesting with predictive analytics, which tries to guess what might happen next. From there, you get prescriptive analytics, telling you, okay, here's what we should do about it. And finally, the whole thing can become automated, where the system just does it for you based on the rules. And let me tell you, mastering these tools is exactly how companies turn messy, raw data into super valuable protected assets. But what's the language that's running behind all of this? I mean, what's powering these analytics? Well, when you actually look at the tools that manage and query all this data, the landscape isn't just tilted. It's almost completely dominated by one single player. And that language is SQL. You might have heard of it, Structured Query Language. Think about the biggest names out there, Amazon, Google, Oracle. The research is clear. Pretty much every major data platform is built on SQL. Now, this isn't just about making things efficient. What this kind of standardization really does is concentrate power. It creates this one common language, which makes it way easier for the gatekeepers to control who gets access to the super valuable data they're sitting on. All right, so if SQL is the universal language of data, then who are the most powerful speakers? That's what we're getting into next, the gatekeepers. These are the major players who basically control the keys to the kingdom, the world's most valuable information. Okay, in the world of finance and big business, 2 names really stand head and shoulders above everyone else, Bloomberg and Thomson Reuters. And don't just think of them as news organizations. No. They are massive, massive data companies that provide the kind of critical information that literally moves markets. And, as you can probably guess, that kind of access, it comes at a steep price. Just take a look at this number for a second. $24,000. Let that sink in. I mean, what kind of information do you think could possibly be worth that much money? That is the price for a 1-year subscription to a single Bloomberg terminal. That's the price of admission. It's a powerful reminder that the kind of premium data that helps people make huge decisions isn't just floating around on the internet for free. It is a highly valuable and, very expensive commodity. So this whole system of private, super expensive data, it creates a really tough dilemma for innovation. And to understand it, let's look at a super practical example that I think we can all relate to. All right, picture this. You've got company A. They have poured a ton of time and money into developing this amazing, revolutionary battery for their phone. It lasts for days. It's a total game changer. The only problem? Their software feels kind of clunky and old. Okay, now over here you have their competitor, Company B,
And their software is incredible. It's the most intuitive, cutting-edge stuff on the market, but their phone can barely make it to lunchtime on a single charge. Sound familiar? So this brings up the most obvious question in the world, right? Why can't I just buy one phone that has the awesome battery and the amazing software? Well, the answer gets right to the heart of how our whole system of innovation is structured.
It comes down to this concept called overlapping R&D. See, Company A went and patented its battery tech, and Company B patented all its software innovations. And because they can't or, won't share with each other, they both end up spending a bunch of time and money trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to catch up on what the other one has already perfected. It's super inefficient, and at the end of the day, it means you, the consumer, don't get the best possible product.
Which brings us right back to our big, overarching question. Given all of these trade-offs, what is the best path forward? Not just for our data, but for our entire economy.
The research really lays out two potential futures here. On one side, you've got market concentration, where a few giant companies basically dominate everything. The pro, they have enormous R&D budgets, and there's way less of that wasteful overlap we talked about. The con, they can charge you much higher prices. Then there's the other option, free competition. The good part is that it forces companies to constantly innovate, just to survive. But the bad part is you can run right back into that overlapping R&D problem, and you still might not end up with the best product. So we're left with this final, really critical question. Should our future lean toward a few powerful giants, or should it be all about free-for-all competition? But maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. Maybe the choice isn't just between those two extremes. Perhaps the real challenge is finding a balance, a whole new system that can reward private innovation while still making sure public progress doesn't get left in the dust. Because honestly, the path we choose is going to define the future of innovation for a long, long time.